Good afternoon, BookTube. So it's time for the first tag in my comeback tour, and it's going to be the mid-year Freakout Tag. Now originally I thought I was going to be too late to the party to do this, but I've seen a lot of BookTubers doing it quite recently, including Marc Nash, who just uploaded his in the week. Now there's two versions. There's a mid-year Freakout Tag and a mid-year review. Marc has sort of pushed them together, so I'm going to be stealing his version, and he's very kindly given me his blessing to do that. I'll of course link to his video down below if you want access to a far superior channel. So I've got the questions here in front of me. Just before I start, I do want to say thanks very much for the warm reception you all gave me on my comeback video. A nice reminder, not that I needed reminding really, just what a wonderful community BookTube is, and how kind and intelligent you all are. So yeah, thanks very much, and it's great to be back. There's quite a lot of questions. I've got a huge stack of books beside me here, so let's crack on and see how far we get. I was quite looking forward to doing this because it's given me the opportunity to talk about a lot of books which I would have spoken about had I been making videos this year. So yeah, let's see how far we get. Question number one is simply the best book you've read so far in 2022. This was quite easy for me. There's one standout book. It's a novel, and it's The Heart is a Lonely Hunter by Carson McCullers, in its Library of America edition. This was actually a birthday present to me in March this year. I had The Heart is a Lonely Hunter in just a standard Penguin edition. I've had it for years, but never really felt compelled to pick it up, didn't really know much about it. But since this was gifted to me, and since it's such a nice edition, I thought, well, I'll start reading it, and it turned out to be absolutely amazing. So this book is going to appear in at least 2 more questions in this tag, so I will talk about it more in depth then when it comes around again. So The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, there was a runner-up in Manservant and Maidservant by Youve, Compton-Burnett, in this New York Review of Books Classics edition. What to say? I mean, I've heard great things about Youve Compton-Burnett before, and now I believe them. If not, she's better than they say. This is just a fantastic little novel, very funny. It's written almost entirely in dialogue. 99% of it is dialogue, very little scene setting, and it's very impressive in that respect, because when you're reading it, you're not thinking, why is this all dialogue, why is she not setting the scene? But you're just absorbed in the story, and it's amazing how she pulls it off. I wish I could have spoken about these books when I was actually reading them, because I can hardly remember what I read this morning, let alone 5-6 months ago. So, but this was the sort of a family drama, an upper middle class, aristocratic family, really, of about 5 or 6 children, and each children was more endearing than the last. The younger they get, the more endearing they are. So just fantastic stuff. I'm really looking forward to reading more Youve Compton-Burnett. I think she's appearing again in this tag. I can't remember. We'll see. So that's question number 1. Question number 2, the best sequel you've read so far in 2022. Now, this is tricky, because I'm not 100% sure. I'm sorry, a blue tit has just landed on the bird feeder, so I'm distracted now. I'm not sure if I actually read this in 2022, and if I didn't, then I haven't read any sequels in 2022, but it's the Chronicles of Amber. Now, I read, this is comprised of 10 books, each one is about 150 pages. I read 6 of them. I think I've still got a bookmark in here, although I may as well take it out because I'm not going to read the others. And because I didn't include each book in my books read, I have a little book where I keep track of all the books I've read. because they were so short, I didn't put them in there, and I thought, well, when I finish the book, I'll put, you know, the Chronicles of Amber read on this day. But I never got that far, so I can't actually remember. If it wasn't this year, it was at least late last year, so, you know, sue me. So yeah, I mean, the Chronicles of Amber, if you don't know about it, it's a fantasy series from about the 70s and 80s. I bought this book when I was about 17. I can't remember why, how I heard about it, but I read the first one, remember liking it, and never read the others. And this year, or last year, I thought, well, you know, I had some time off work, I'm going to sit down and just read all of them. The first few novels are really interesting and entertaining, very enjoyable, and then it just gets more of the same and gets sillier, and I don't want to read anymore. It starts out, the main character, I can't remember his name, he wakes up in hospital and he's got amnesia, and he's slowly learning, set in like contemporary New York, and he's slowly learning that he's actually sort of an immortal prince of Amber. Amber is like this mirror world, you know, with fantastical beings, and his brothers and sisters, princes and princesses, also have powers, and they're all fighting for the throne, they're backstabbing each other, and it's family feud. So, yeah, I mean, enjoyable, but I got to book 6 and I just couldn't take any more. I think he wrote the first 5 books in like year after year, then he had a bit of a hiatus and then wrote the next 5. If I remember, they're based on a slightly different set of characters, or it's like the main character's son, and he just wasn't interested anymore. So that would be technically the best sequel I've read in 2022, if I even read it in 2022, who knows. So, question number 3. Blimey, we're only on question 3. New release you haven't read yet, but want to. I haven't been reading any new releases, really, the last couple of years. But there is a book which my colleague is going to lend to me next week. I think it's by Sherry Jones, and it's called something like How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps a House, something like that. Caribbean novel, and I think it was shortlisted for the Women's Prize, and my colleague has come highly recommended to me, so I look forward to receiving that and reading that. Question number 4. Most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Similarly to question 3, not really anticipating any releases. I am reading Cormac McCarthy at the moment, and he's got a couple of novels coming out. Don't know why he's got a couple of novels coming out, but he has. And if they release a nice hardback of it, you know, with a nice cover, good quality, I might just treat myself to that, because it would be a nice thing to have. Don't really care about reading it at this rate, but yes, anyway. But I think that would be nice, because, you know, all the imprint books of Cormac McCarthy, I've got one here in the UK, are just you know, just standard bland covers. So this is The Crossing. I mean, they all look, they're all designed in the same way, Picador, and it's just, you know, I don't really want to buy that. So we'll see how it looks when it comes out. Question 5. Biggest disappointment. I have a couple of answers. Firstly is Anthony Trollope's Phineas Finn. This is actually, I guess this is actually kind of a sequel, so I could have included this in the earlier answer, but it's part of the Palliser series. Yeah, the Palliser novels, which are about 5 or 6. The first one being Can You Forgive Her, which I absolutely love. It's just a fantastic novel. You know, one of my favourite Victorian novels. Which is why this was such a disappointment, and I didn't even finish this actually. I didn't get particularly far. Again, the bookmark's still in there, but I may as well take it out. Because it's been months since I've even picked this up. But this one, quite political, but none of the characters really interested me. The story didn't interest me. Phineas Finn has his hopes of becoming Prime Minister, but he just seems like such an unremarkable character. You know, we've got so many unremarkable candidates for Prime Minister at the moment. It's just I didn't really want to read it. So I these novels are quite sort of self-contained. So some of the characters sort of continue, like, go through the series, but that I'm pretty sure you can just pick one up and read it as a self-contained thing. So I could always read one of the later Palliser novels. I think The Duke's Children is one. Eustace Diamonds is another. So, you know, it's not stopped me from wanting to read other Trollope novels or even other novels in this series. It's just this one in particular didn't do anything for me. So that my other answer for this question was actually Bob Odenkirk's memoir. Now it wasn't a disappointment because of the book itself, and the book itself is kind of exactly as I expected. I mean, it's a if those who don't know, Bob Odenkirk is the star of Better Call Saul, you know, the greatest TV show of our times, of all time, and he decided to write. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get it so there's no reflection there. Decided to write a memoir about his acting career and how he went from comedy to drama. I don't know what compelled him to do that. I mean, the book itself wasn't particularly good, but at least that means I think he actually wrote it. It wasn't ghostwritten, so that's good. But the reason it was disappointment is because Bob Odenkirk went on a book tour of the United States and the UK, including London and Manchester and Liverpool, I think. And for some reason, Ely Cathedral, which is less than 10 minutes drive from my home in the middle of nowhere. So I had tickets, I was absolutely pumped to go. And of course, this was in mid-March. And of course, the day I was supposed to go, I was feeling under the weather, had been feeling under the weather for a few days. And of course I tested positive for COVID, so I couldn't go. I was absolutely gutted. So my good friend who I was going with, he went, and whether he's telling the truth or not, he said it wasn't very good anyway. You couldn't hear what he was saying because the cathedral was very echoey, and he also didn't do a book signing either, so I wouldn't have got to have met him, wouldn't have got it signed. So yeah, silver lining, but yeah, that was a big disappointment. I didn't get to see him because that's, you know, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Or how often is Bob Odenkirk going to come to the Ely Cathedral to give a talk? But yeah, so question number 6 is the biggest surprise. For this, I've chosen a book that I don't have because I read it out of the local library. It's The Institute by Stephen King. Now, I can't remember how I used to put pictures up on these videos. I'm hoping YouTube is going to have a feature where I can do that. So if you're seeing a picture there, that's what it is. If not, you're going to have to use your imagination. But The Institute is a 2019 novel. And it was a big surprise to me just because I enjoyed it so much. Although in other ways it was one of the most uncomfortable, unpleasant reading experiences of my life, in that, well, The Institute is about gifted children, children with telepathic powers and telekinetic powers. They're actually divided in those two camps, and the Institute literally kills their parents and kidnaps these children and brings them to the Institute to literally torture them for hundreds of pages on end with no remorse and no justice. So it's incredibly bleak reading, and in fact there are a couple of scenes which were so questionable. I could not believe that they made it into the final edit of the book. I just couldn't believe what I was reading. It's so disgusting what happens in that book. But if I don't know if it's been optioned for a film, but if it is, they're certainly going to have to tone it down a lot. But another weird thing about the Institute is it opens in this sort of neo-realist story. This ex-cop he's sort of travelling about Georgia, looking for work. He's a white cop, and he was involved in a racial dispute when he was off duty, and he's resigned because of it. So, and the first 60 pages. So, I just thought, this is so good. You know, it's topical. It's quite well written, better than I was expecting. It was like something out of Carson McCullers. I thought, this is fantastic. I'm loving this. And then part 1 ends at about page 60, and part 2 begins, which is the next few hundred pages of the Institute. And it just seemed like Stephen King had sort of started writing one novel, and gave up, and started writing another novel. And I just kept thinking, well, I want to read this other novel he was writing. But he, you know, in the end, he's going to somehow tie these things together, even if he did it at the last minute. And so, you know, that was quite funny and strange. But yeah, so the Institute. So question number 7. So favourite new author, debut or new to you? I think this fits both categories. It's I didn't really have much to choose from here, but I've chosen this novel called The Red Arrow by William Brewer. It was sort of a cover buy, actually. I just thought it's not an offensively bad cover for a UK cover, and the fact that it hasn't got any red on it intrigued me. It's the same on the back. American writer. It's basically it's about a writer ghostwriting a physicist's autobiography. And I was quite impressed with it. I thought it was well written, and William Brewer is clearly a sort of Dennis Johnson wannabe. His writing style is very clearly ripped from Dennis Johnson, but he actually quotes from The Largesse of the Sea Maiden towards the end in a very weird way. There's a character in this book, a sort of veteran writer called LD, those 2 letters, and it's a female writer, and he's quoting from one of her books, but he's actually quoting from The Largesse of the Sea Maiden by Dennis Johnson, and it was very strange. I couldn't quite wrap my head around why he would do that, but he attributes the quote in the acknowledgements, but it's quite strange. I did start to watch an interview with this guy on YouTube, but I didn't make it very far. I mean, there was just a couple of dude bros, chewing toothpicks and not really caring about anything. So it's just, but it was exactly what I was expecting, in other words. But yeah, so if he was to write another novel, then I would have probably glanced at it. Question number 8, newest fictional crush. I believe this is one of those questions aimed at children, which we are permitted to skip over, so I will. Question number 9, newest favourite character. Wouldn't usually have an answer to this either, but I will come back to The Heart is the Lonely Hunter. The main character, John Singer, who is a mute, and he's basically a Jesus Christ figure. I mean, he's a saviour in many ways. There are lots of other characters just completely magnetised to him, and they need him, and they come to him in the middle of the night just to talk at him, even though he doesn't talk back, he just listens. But he doesn't need them. And John Singer is not infallible. He has this sort of tragic friendship with this other chap, another mute, who he goes to see, and he signs to, even though he's not actually sure, we're not sure whether this other guy can even understand him. And it is tragic, but I could have also chosen another one of the characters in this book, a young girl, I can't remember her name, but she was this fantastic character as well. There's a brilliant, long chapter where she's about 13 or 14. She decides to host a party at a house full of friends at school, and even people she doesn't really know. And just the run up to that party, the party itself, and then the aftermath of the party is just extraordinary. When I learned that Carson McCullers was like 21 years old when she wrote the book, I just could not believe it. I was kind of pissed off, actually. So how someone that young could write such an extraordinary novel. The other, I did read all the others in this collection. I hesitate to say that she's a one-trick pony, because she's not, but a lot of the same characters sort of appear over and over again, sort of archetypes. I mean, the young precocious girl, the loners, the disabled, and yeah, so although I did enjoy all of the others, nothing really came close to Heart is a Lonely Hunter, which I think is going to be the answer to the next question as well. I'm just going to check. Yeah, so the next book is question number 10. Book that made you cry. It didn't make me cry, but it came bloody well close. Something happens in The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, which you know is going to happen. You can see it coming, but it still doesn't prepare you for when it actually happens. And I remember I was reading the words on the page, and I just had to stop in my tracks, and I was just shocked. So I didn't actually cry, but I was pretty damn close to tearing up at that stage. I mean, it's a novel about loneliness, obviously, based on the title, but which so it's obviously struck a nerve for me. I live alone, so it's something I battle with. So yeah, yeah. Question number 11 is book that made you happy. I'm really stretching the definition of happy here, so I've sort of just gone with books that make me laugh. I went through a Billy Collins phase earlier in the year. I'd read him before, but I decided to buy like most of his books, or order them in. Billy Collins, American poet, still alive, probably the most popular poet in the world, to be honest. He's known for getting record book deals for poetry collections, and rightfully so. I think he's a brilliant poet. I mean, and he's just incredibly funny. So I just had no end of joy reading through all his collections. There are a couple that I haven't read yet, but I think I've read enough for now, so I'm not going to jump to them. I think there's a more recent one that came out during the pandemic, which I haven't read, and a couple of his earlier collections, which are unobtainable because it's so rare. In fact, I think I saw him say once at a poetry reading, someone had bought one of his earliest collections to sign, and Billy Collins offered to buy it off him so he could burn it because he's so ashamed of it. It's quite funny. Question number 12. We're nearing the end here. The most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. Again, I haven't really been buying too many books this year, at least compared to other years. I have been buying a lot more new books. It might be because I live near a bookshop that actually sells new books. So I'm not terribly satisfied with this answer, but I really kind of like this cover. I just think it's just very pretty. It's E. Cummins and Miss Zelazny. I have to admit, when I bought this, I obviously didn't look at it very carefully because I automatically assumed that it was actually a book about E. Cummins and essays about him or interpretations, and it turned out to be not that at all. It was actually non-fiction, almost humour pieces by E. Cummins, often written under pseudonyms in magazines. A lot of it reminded me of sort of Woody Allen's humour writing, from like the 70s. So yeah, it was quite surprising in that aspect, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I believe there's a sort of collected, or at least selected poems in a similar kind of style, with the colours, and this is published by W.W. Norton, I think, in America. So yeah, I picked this up at a local bookshop in Ely called Toppings. There are 4 branches in the UK: Bath, St Andrews, Edinburgh, and Ely. And it's a fantastic bookshop. They get a lot of niche stuff in there, a lot of American publications, a lot of things that are out of print, which I still don't really understand how they do that, because they're not used books. I need to ask them how and why they do that. But yeah, this, for example, you know, this is not published in England, so they managed to get it. And also they wrap all their hardcovers in this sort of dust jacket protector plastic, so you know, helps preserve them, I suppose, but it makes them look nicer. So question number 13: what books do you need to read by the end of the year? Nothing in particular, but I do want to read more classics. So if you can see, I've got all my classics on one side there, up there, so plenty to choose from, but in particular I want to have another go at Crime and Punishment. I want to read Brothers Karamazov. I want to read more George Eliot and a few Jane Austen novels. Probably Sense and Sensibility next, I haven't read. More of the Bronte, so I read Wuthering Heights late last year, which was just such a powerful novel. I've read Jane Eyre many years ago, and again, just a brilliant novel, so I really like to just read more of them. I've also got a biography of Charlotte Bronte I might be picking up soon, so yeah, I think that's an acceptable answer. 14 is, what's a book you started reading this year and still need to complete? This is quite awkward, really, because I started reading this in, I think, about February, and it's just been on my bedside table. I haven't hardly touched it in weeks. It's the collected poems John Ashbery, 1991 to year 2000. John Ashbery, of course, American modernist poet, long career, 50-60 year career, and this is just a snapshot of his late career, and this is clocking in at nearly 800 pages of dense modernist poetry. And to be fair, I am 550 pages into it, and this is why I'm so reluctant to take the bookmark out and put it back on the shelf, because I think it's so close to the end, but I may as well get there. But I've liked John Ashbery's early stuff in the past, self-portraiting, convex mirror, that kind of thing. Some trees. This not so much. It's not doing it for me. I've probably actually liked about one, maybe 2 poems in this entire collection, and the rest is just baffling. So it will probably remain on my bedside table. But it would be nice to finish the damn thing. Incidentally, there is a Library of America edition of this, and it's exactly the same book, just published in the Library of America format, and this is just the British version published by Carson, the poetry publisher in Manchester. So the contents is exactly the same. You've got the chronology, and it's laid out in exactly the same way. It's just you get this really cool cover. Actually, I really do quite like that. Again, this was I bought this new from Toppings, which is unlike me, but not the kind of thing you would ever see used in a charity shop. So worth doing. And the final question is, what's your next big priority for your reading? What's the next big priority for your reading? Well, I'm just going to read my notes as what I actually said here, but yeah, so as I already alluded to, I do want to read more classics. Basically, I've not read many classics at all this year, so it is something I need to prioritise and get back into. And generally, just reading more. I've found in the last few months I've been slipping out of habit. I've been doing Sudoku puzzles instead of actually reading in the evening. So I do need to get back into reading more. And obviously now I seem to be back on BookTube, so somehow shaping my reading around BookTube, or shaping BookTube around my reading. Maybe take part in some of those BookTube challenges I hear so much about, or getting back into buddy reads, God forbid. So yeah, but I've been droning on for about 30 minutes now, so I think I should wrap up there. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you, Mark, for letting me steal your version of the tag, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much.